What's up? It's Elijah Campbell from 107.5 The Game here with a new segment that we're doing on our YouTube page and The Game TV, where every week I will tell you what bugs me, and that is sponsored by our friends at Modern Exterminating. We know what bugs you online at pestfreesc.com. So what better way to do a segment with those guys sponsoring it than to tell you what's been bugging me in the sports world this week. And this week is really easy because the culprit here is Bobby Mullen and Dan Hurley. Now, you might be asking yourself, who's Bobby Mullen? I know who Danny Hurley is, the head coach of the UConn Huskies men's basketball team that, before getting knocked out by Florida yesterday, were the back-to-back national champions, one of the best coaches in the entire sport right now. But I want to unload on him and Bobby Mullen, who is the sports information director for the UConn Huskies men's basketball team. And here's why. So when eliminated from yesterday's game against Florida, a hard-fought loss in which UConn showed a lot of heart to be able to play a Florida team that is the best in the nation right now, and to lose a really close game I know is really disheartening, especially when it ends your season. But he got caught on camera walking off the floor into the tunnel, yelling some advice to Baylor that I can't necessarily, repeat verbatim, but, basically I hope I hope they don't screw you like they screwed us. And I guess I'm assuming that he's talking about the officiating, even though I don't think they got some type of unfavorable, irrational whistle. Don't think that was the case. But not just the sore loserness that Danny Hurley kind of has with him, but which he's kind of displayed all year. And then trying to throw officials under the bus when that really wasn't the issue. Not really admitting defeat because it's not his fault they lost, it's the officials. The guy is kind of a firecracker in the sport in terms of just being a personality, which in my opinion is a great thing for the sport. Him being as emotionally charged, him being as demonstrative as he is, and being the personality he is good for the sport ultimately, but doesn't mean everybody has to like it and doesn't have to be annoyed by it, because the guy's he's an incredibly sore loser. I think the sore loser shtick has kind of grown old on a lot of people. It's certainly grown old on me. I'm tired of hearing about how it's everybody else's fault but yours when they lose, and then it's all the credit to you and your team whenever you win. That's annoying in its own right. And it's even worse when Bobby Mullen, the sports information director for Connecticut, threatens the reporter who took the video. Now, at the NCAA tournament, men's and women's, you're not allowed to shoot video on the floor because of the very specific and strict rules regarding the television and broadcasting rights of these events. The video was not taken out on the floor. The video is taken in a place where you can take video when coaches and players are walking off the floor and into the tunnel. That's not the issue. Even though Bobby Mullen accused him of taking video, the reporter in question accused him of taking the video in a place where he wasn't allowed to. That's false. That is verifiably false. You are allowed to do that. We see videos all the time of coaches and players walking off the floor, consoling players, or maybe taking a quiet walk back to the locker room. That's fair game. And we see that all the time. But what we don't see all the time is a coach berating officials behind their back about what he hopes they don't do to the other team, even though that officiating crew wasn't doing the Duke-Baylor game after that. So it's counterintuitive. It's also not just false, it's also just incredibly misguided. But what Bobby Mullen, the sports information director, did after the video came out and became very public and became a story in itself was, according to the reporter who took the video and other reporters around him, threatened to, quote, ruin your life, end quote. Said he was going to ruin the life of the reporter who took it. And that's incredibly soft. It's weak. And that's loser behavior. You don't threaten a reporter who's doing his job and is in a rightful place to be able to report and do something he has every bit in his power to be allowed to do, and threaten to ruin his life and his career because he took an unflattering video of Danny Hurley. Well, I got news for you, Mr. Mullen. Dan Hurley brings a lot of that on his own. He doesn't need help from a reporter to make himself look like a sore loser. Why? Because he does it on his own. He doesn't need help to kind of not tarnish his image, but to paint himself in the light of somebody who does not handle losing well. This is news to nobody. We saw how he talked about officials in Maui after those games. We saw him yell at an official, say, "Don't turn your back on me. I'm the best coach in the bleeping sport." We've seen that. We're not dumb. And the assumption that we are dumb and that the only thing we should know about Danny Hurley is that he consoled his players and his seniors after the game. No, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And when he gets caught doing something unflattering on camera in a place where, yes, people are allowed to shoot video, you are in the wrong. And to threaten somebody is not just low class and low level and spineless, but it's just wrong and misguided. And it also shows incredible thin-skinnedness that apparently isn't just existing in the coach, it's existing to everybody in the program. And him threatening a reporter is a poor reflection. That's an amazing program. It's a championship program. It's a program that's yielded results that we haven't seen since the mid-2000s when Florida went back-to-back. That can be the story if you allow it to. I understand a sports information director's job is to be the PR of the team and to be able to be a media relations kind of coordinator. I understand the job. I understand being defensive of your coach. But to threaten somebody over something that they did, their coach did, not the reporter was doing his job. Danny Hurley, all he had to do was just not say what he said. That's all he had to do. He could have shut his mouth, walked over, and then yelled that in the locker room, and no one would have known. And to instead place blame on a reporter for doing his job is just weak. And it's using your power that you have as an SID, because SIDs oftentimes provide media with the access to coaches and players. And to be able to dangle that power and use it as a weapon is weak, soft, and so thin-skinned that it has bugged me to no end seeing that today. There's no business to act like that. There's no reason to act like that after losing anyway. I understand being upset, and I understand being heartbroken that your season ended and that you got to say goodbye to the seniors. I get it. That's part of sports, and it's sad, and it's definitely a reason to be upset. But to be able to say what he did, not expect any type of blowback, knowing there's cameras around, he knows there's cameras there, and to not expect any type of blowback or take any type of accountability is weak. And that's not a championship mindset. That's a loser mentality. So what's bugging me is the loser mentality that UConn's men's basketball program has kind of scorched here in the last 24 hours. And threatening somebody else because you just so happen to get caught displaying a sore loser mentality is not the way to go about this. Again, thin-skinned, soft, terrible look. I hope they rectify this next year. I'm not asking Danny Hurley to scale back his demonstrativeness. I'm not asking him to scale back the emotional edge that he's carried with him for reportedly his entire life, and because it makes him what he is. And that's fine, and it's great for the sport. It's awesome for the sport to have somebody be a heel and a villain. But don't act like a heel and a villain. Portray yourself as that, and then get upset when people catch you in the moments in which you're acting like that and showing your ass. When you show your rear end like that, it is going to be a part of the story, whether you want it to or not. It's up to you how you respond to that, and how they've responded to it from the coach all the way down to the sports information director is an incredibly bad look on a program that really doesn't need that type of distraction. Because ultimately, in the long run, that will become a bigger story than what your team is. So that's what's bugging me this week. What bugs Elijah, what bugs me, is brought to you by our friends over at Modern Exterminating. We know what bugs you online at pestfreesc.com, and they're also sponsoring our on-demand and video podcasting. So Modern Exterminating, hit them up, pestfreesc.com. They know what bugs you. And buddy, Dan Hurley and Bobby Mullen, the SID at UConn's men's basketball team, is definitely what has bugged me today.